You're driving home after dinner, a road you've taken 1,000 times, and out of nowhere, headlights coming the other way don't just shine, they explode across your windshield in a burst of white you can't blink away. For a second, maybe two, you can't see the lane markings at all. Your hands tighten on the wheel. And then it passes, and you tell yourself it was nothing, just glare, just a bright car, just one of those things. But here's the truth almost nobody tells you at your yearly eye exam. That burst of light isn't just glare. For a lot of people over 60, it's the earliest, quietest signal that something in the eye is already changing, sometimes years before it shows up on a standard vision chart. The American Academy of Ophthalmology has long pointed out that night vision difficulty is one of the first functional changes people notice with age-related eye conditions, often well before daytime vision is affected at all, which means the eye chart you pass every year in a bright, well-lit office can miss the exact problem that's making your evening drives feel more dangerous every month. And that's the part that troubles me most, because by the time most people bring it up to their doctor, they've already quietly stopped driving at night. They've already started making excuses to skip the dinner invitation, the evening event, the drive to see the grandkids after dark. They call it just being cautious. What it usually is early vision loss nobody diagnosed. My name is Dr. Thomas, and for years I've worked with patients whose eyes still test normal on paper, but who tell me, almost embarrassed, that driving after dark just doesn't feel safe anymore. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 warning signs that your night vision is changing, signs most people brush off as normal aging. Watch for number 4, because it's the one almost every patient I see has experienced and never once mentioned to their doctor. And number 1 is the sign that if you catch it early enough, can often be slowed down significantly with the right steps. Before we get into it, I'd love to know, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your city or country in the comments. I read every single one. And one important note before we start, everything in this video is educational, not a diagnosis. If you're noticing changes in your vision, please see a licensed eye care professional. Your eyes and your safety on the road are worth that appointment. Let's start with the first one. If oncoming headlights don't just look bright, but seem to burst outward into a starburst or streak across your vision, that's not your imagination, and it's not simply a brighter car. This effect, sometimes called glare scatter, happens when light entering the eye no longer focuses cleanly onto the retina. Instead, it scatters across the lens. Early clouding of the lens, even clouding too mild to affect your daytime vision, can cause exactly this kind of light scatter at night when your pupils are wider and letting in more light from more angles. What to do? Mention this specific symptom by name at your next eye exam, starburst glare from headlights, because it points your doctor toward checking the lens specifically, not just your general sharpness of vision. You glance at oncoming headlights, look away, and for several long seconds, the road ahead is just a wash of afterimage before your eyes readjust. In your 30s, that recovery might take a second or two. Past 60, that same recovery can stretch to 10 seconds or more, and at highway speed, 10 seconds is nearly the length of 2 football fields traveled almost blind. This slower recovery is tied to how efficiently your retina regenerates a light-sensitive pigment called rhodopsin, a process that naturally slows with age but can slow further with certain eye conditions. What to do? If you notice this specifically, avoid looking directly at oncoming headlights. Glance toward the right edge of your lane instead, and bring up delayed glare recovery at your next appointment. It's not that you can't see them eventually, it's that they used to be readable from much farther away, and now you're almost on top of them before the letters resolve. This is often one of the earliest hints of reduced contrast sensitivity, your ability to tell a slightly darker object apart from its background, which matters enormously at night when everything is some shade of gray.
Standard eye charts test sharpness in high contrast, black letters on a white background, which is why this kind of loss can hide from a basic test for years. What to do? Ask specifically for a contrast sensitivity test, not just a standard visual acuity chart, at your next visit. This is the one I mentioned earlier, and it's the one I hear about constantly, almost never volunteered until I ask directly. People quietly start choosing routes with fewer turns, fewer intersections, less oncoming traffic, not because they've been told to, but because some instinct tells them those moments feel harder than they used to. That instinct is often correct. Judging the speed and distance of an oncoming car at night while managing glare asks a lot of vision that may already be working harder than it should. If you've caught yourself rerouting a drive specifically to avoid this kind of moment, that's meaningful information, not a personality quirk, and not something to keep to yourself at your next exam. Reds look more brown. Blues look muted. Everything takes on a faint yellow-brown cast, especially noticeable on taillights, brake lights, and traffic signals. This is a classic and often overlooked sign of early lens changes, since a clouding or yellowing lens filters light unevenly before it even reaches the retina. Because the shift happens gradually, day by day, most people simply don't notice it happening to their own eyes. It's often a spouse or family member in the passenger seat who says something first. What to do? If someone close to you has ever commented that you seem to be missing a light change or a brake light, don't wave it off. Bring that specific comment to your eye doctor. This one rarely gets connected to vision at all. People chalk it up to being older, being tired, not liking driving as much as they used to. But when your eyes have to work significantly harder to compensate for glare, slower light recovery, and lower contrast sensitivity, that extra effort is real physical strain, and it adds up over a 20-minute drive, the same way squinting at a screen all day leaves you drained by evening. If a short evening drive leaves you feeling more wrung out than the drive itself should explain, your eyes may be doing far more work behind the scenes than you realize. This is the sign I most want you to hear, because it's the one that hides in plain sight. Most people don't lose their night vision all at once. They lose it in such small increments over so many months that they simply adjust. They slow down a little more. They grip the wheel a little tighter. They tell themselves this is just what night driving feels like now. And because there's no single dramatic moment, there's often no single moment that prompts a doctor's visit either. If you've caught yourself thinking some version of, "I can still manage, it's just not what it used to be," that sentence itself is often the clearest warning sign of all. Managing is not the same as seeing clearly, and the earlier a change like this gets identified, the more options you and your eye doctor typically have to address whatever's actually behind it.
So here's what I want you to take from all 7 of these. None of them, on their own, means something is seriously wrong, but together they paint a picture, and it's a picture worth bringing to a professional rather than quietly working around on your own. The good news is that many of the most common causes behind these 7 signs, when caught early, have real, manageable paths forward. That's worth saying clearly. Noticing these signs is not a verdict, it's information. And information is exactly what lets you stay in the driver's seat, literally and figuratively, for years longer. Think about what that actually means in daily life. Not canceling on the dinner because it means driving home after dark. Not asking your spouse to take the wheel every single evening. Not quietly giving up a piece of your independence without ever finding out whether you needed to. So, here's my question for you tonight. Of these 7 signs, which one hit closest to home? Was it the starburst glare, the slow recovery, or that quiet feeling of just managing instead of truly seeing clearly? Tell me which one in the comments. I read every single response, and I promise you're not the only one who's felt it.
If this video helped you understand something about your own vision, do me a favor and hit the like button, subscribe for more honest conversations about vision and aging, and share this with someone in your life who's mentioned they don't love driving at night anymore. It might be exactly the nudge they need to get it checked. This is Dr. Thomas. See the road clearly and see everyone waiting for you at the other end of it.